This video is for you if you want to understand how to enjoy shadow work. Can shadow work be enjoyable? Yes, it can. It can be intimidating. Because, I mean, your shadow is your inner bully. You know, hey, stop that. Shh. Shh. You know, and yes, you do have to listen to it. Because if you don't, you're not going to understand it. But it can be enjoyable. So, our shadow always wants us to play small and to stay in fear. Remember, it isn't courage if you don't feel fear first, and if you're not experiencing fear while you're doing it. Those Medal of Honor winners that are still alive, do you think they were not afraid? So, think of it this way. If you reframe your fear from false evidence appearing real, because most of our fear is just our projecting, then you're finding excitement all around you, with an apostrophe at the R. Finding excitement all around. Are you falling off the top of the cliff? Or are you riding that roller coaster? And yes, life is this way. And shadow work is definitely this way. It's not that fun all of the time, but you can enjoy the process. Those of you who are martial artists understand this really well, that when you're in the bout, when you're blocking, kicking, punching, all of these things, all those little micro moments are the nows. If you're concentrated on winning, or you're worried about losing, you're not enjoying yourself. But in that moment, when you're just coming from a place of expressing yourself, totally free, and all of that training is automatic. Wow. Some of the greatest moments I ever experienced were when I was in the SCA doing the battlefields. And I'd be out there and I'd get done and they'd say, "Wow, dude, you were unconscious." There was one weekend where I accounted literally, personally, through my own efforts or through assisting others, for 1/3 of our opposing losses over the course of 6 battles during that day. Did I get awarded for it? No. Someone else did, because they were being looked at for being a knight. Oh well, I don't care. I'm not there anymore. But the fact of the matter was, the opposing king, the opposing knights, and some of the knights that were on my side all came to me and said, "Dude, where is that guy all the time?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but I'm hoping he's here again." So, you know, those little things, you really can enjoy those moments. When you're coming from a place of total enjoyment and you're not concerned about winning, you're not concerned about losing, you're just concerned about making friends with your shadow, you can enjoy it and make friends with your shadow. I mean, yes, he wants to be a bully, but what does the bully need? A hug. When you start showing your love to a bully, you can beat the crap out of a bully. He's still going to be a bully, just not to you. But when you can talk to the bully and you can say, "Hey, you're not going to beat me up," or even if you do beat him up, pick him up and say, "Hey, we don't have to act like this anymore. Don't become the bully." And if he's not interested, let him go away. But your shadow isn't going away. Whether it's the light shadow or the dark shadow, it's not going away. So make it your friend. And how do you do that? Well, that requires daily work. I mean, literally, our shadow can be our greatest ally when we allow it to inform us. And that's an incredible place to be, when your best friend is the one that used to be beating you up. When your best friend is the one that used to be keeping you small. You know, I mean, it can be our greatest enemy when we allow it to dictate to us who we are. But when we allow it to inform us, then it can be our greatest ally. It can be our greatest friend. Because then we can get it to work with us. We can get it to work together with us. I've been doing it. It's not easy. I'm Hawk from Helpful Hawk Healing, where we're freeing human hearts. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Thank you for the comments, even the ones that don't like what I'm saying. At least I know where you're coming from. So, how do we experience enjoyment when we're digging through the garbage heaps of our mind and psyche? Well, think about it this way. One man's trash is another man's treasure. So, if you start looking at all of these little pieces that come up as your treasures, you can say, hey, you know what? Wow, look at this. Look at this moment. What did I learn from this moment? How did I learn from this moment? How is this moment expressing itself through me right now in such a way that I can help others understand how to express their moment? And you can enjoy learning so that you can teach. You can enjoy saying, hey, I might not have been in exactly that place, but here's my experience. You can share the moment with a person. You can share the safe space with a person so that that person, male or female, can experience a commonality, a compassion, a co-suffering, or, more importantly, a co-winning, a co-enjoyment. Hey, you know, and I'm not talking about commiseration being, you know, this talk therapy thing where we're talking about the problem at the level it's perceived and therefore exacerbating and continuing the problem. I'm talking about saying, hey, look, when I went inside and dug this up, this is what I found. And once I dusted it off and cleaned off all the dark stuff, wow, this moment became one of the most empowering moments of my life because I know I overcame that moment. I know that I survived through that moment. I know that that moment informs every moment of the rest of my life and that every now is existing right now, but this particular now that I'm carrying with me no longer holds me back. So feel those tiny bits of freedom every time the chains loosen. Feel those tiny bits of freedom. Remember the movie The Shawshank Redemption and the guy had a little bitty hammer? How many years did he spend? Every night. And then eventually, he went through the labyrinth and through the sewage. And what he did? He celebrated his freedom. But every single day, no matter how hard it was, he was out there in that yard, shaking it off. And every step he took, and every ounce of dust that he let go, was one little more moment of freedom. So whether it's a millimeter, or a mile, or 10,000 miles, progress every day. Celebrate the millimeters as much as you celebrate the miles. Because once he threaded his way through that labyrinth, and once he went through that sewage, and once he got free, he made it possible for the person he had inspired to come to him and experience his own freedom, and experience his own victory. And he had a place for him, and he had the boat, and he had the way. There are many teachers in the past that have done this for us. Jesus or Yeshua, Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha, but he's a Buddha, just as Jesus was a Christ, an anointed one. Sri Sri Anandamurti, Prabhat Ranjan Thakur, Yogananda. Look at all these different people. Anandamayi Mal, or I apologize if I've got her name wrong. You know, so a millimeter or a mile, progress every day. And sometimes it seems like you're slipping backwards. And if you're going back to old habits, you do. Believe me, I've struggled with this on a daily basis. Every single day. But I'm not sitting there saying, hi, I'm Hawk and I'm a victim and I have a disease called victimhood. No, I'm not a victim. I'm a victor. And I look to my shadow, the light and the dark, and I say, how can we be victorious today? How can we show others how they can also be victorious today? Even if we're experiencing part of the collective shadow of what's going on right now. How can we be an example of how to be, because we have definitely been an example of how not to be. And that is my main goal in life, to be an example of how to be, an example of how to be, not the example of how to be, but an example of one way. Some of you don't like how I talk. Okay. Some of you don't like what I'm saying. Okay. I'm against dogma and censorship of any kind. I filter myself because I don't like cursing anymore. Sometimes I still slip up and do, but I look for more informative adjectives. If you don't, hey, that's you. One way I did that I overcame cursing is I decided to curse as if I were an alien, and when I heard a word, I needed to know what it was. And so, son of a female canine who has offspring, well, figure that one out. Male who copulates with females who have offspring. Start doing that and start laughing with your shadow. Because if you laugh at your shadow, it's going to come back. But if you learn to laugh with your shadow, and sometimes your shadow is going to say, hey, you're laughing at me. And you're like, no, I'm laughing with you. But can't you see the humor in this situation? Can't you see the ridiculousness in this situation? So I personally get very caught up in the results to the point that I have to walk away in my mind sometimes and look at where I started. Good grief. How many thousands of dollars did I spend in strip clubs? How many thousands of hours did I spend with pornography? How many hundreds of thousands of dollars did I spend on cigarettes, alcohol, and marijuana? And I still bounce around with the cigarettes. But every single one of those moments has informed this moment. It's not the easiest thing in the world to go inside yourself and say, where is it in me? First off, what is it in me? Where is it in me? And then you're going to automatically say, how do I get it out of me? But not necessarily how do I get it out of me? How do I integrate it? How do I let it still be within me? How do I let it still be a part of me and yet inform me as to, oh, hold on a moment. That little danger, danger. Well, guess what? That's there for a reason. Now, if you proceed anyway, you're proceeding informed. That's courage. That's courage. So now I realize that the 1% daily improvement over the last 7.5 years equals 2,737.5% improvement. And don't get to me on the math and the compound interest and everything like that, because some days I've experienced 1,000% improvement. Some days I've only experienced 0.01% improvement. But it all adds up. Even if it's only 1% a day, simple math says 365% improvement over the course of a year. So, oh man, I'm only getting 1% per day. Hey, I'm getting 1% per day. In 1 year, that's 365%. And that's not including the compound interest as 1% plus, and times and all that stuff. You know, do the compound math. I'm not into that. I understand theories of quantum physics. I don't need to know the mathematics to be able to live in the quantum realm. So, when we view life as a great big game and the shadow as our ally, as our friend, as our teammate, we got this guy over here, and we got this guy over here, and we're cheering them on. That cheers us on. We get shown where we can improve. We get shown where we get to love ourselves more and where our bully actually wants to be free and yet still feel safe. Because a lot of times, when you take a prisoner that spent 20 years in prison from the age of 15 and let them out on the street, they no longer feel safe. They knew the rules when they were in there. They knew who the monsters were. Out on the street, they don't know who the monsters are anymore. They don't know where to go to get food and all of these different things unless they have been led well. And I do know some former prisoners that used their time well to inform themselves, to educate themselves. They took advantage of every program in there. Not just to keep themselves from getting bored, but so they didn't get stuck back in the same situation. And I've seen them get close to getting back there and said, hey man, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, hold on, yeah, you're right, that's not a monster. You know, I've told you my past. Porn. Specific, looking at 12-year-old girls in bikinis and stuff. Yeah, I was fixed on that 12-year-old girl at the age of 4 when I was sexually molested, or whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. Does that make me a criminal? From some perspectives, it does. Does that make me looking to rectify the situation by re-experiencing the situation and trying to re-understand the situation and reorganize the situation in my mind? Now that I know what happened, I can see it and say, yeah, that's why I fixated. How many others did that? All of these priests, how many of them experienced what they perpetrate? Because hurt people hurt people. And yes, I hurt people. Either inadvertently or some cases with alcohol and marijuana involved. Yes, I did. And I admit it. You know, for the things I got caught and went to jail for, and the things I could have gotten sent to prison for, wow. Did I ever engage in sexual activity with an underage person when I was underage? Yes. I was overage? No. Everything I did once I was past the age of 20 was legal. That doesn't make what I did right, but it was still legal. And they were a part of it. That's part of my shadow. Once I rectified that situation, I realized what was going on. Oh, wow. And to have older male family members handing me pornography of naked young females at the age I was, did that increase it? Yeah. I guarantee you. It's part of the shadow. Not understanding that sexual creativity is creating our life and can be used in a totally different way, which I have only realized recently is rough. But you can enjoy the shadow work. Even when you fall, you can enjoy it. As Bruce Lee says, when I'm falling, I'm asking why I fell. How do I not fall again? You can enjoy this work, but you have to look at it from the perspective. And we have to look at it from the perspective of, am I doing crime and punishment with myself, or am I doing recognizing what situation led me to this situation so that I don't get into this situation and put anyone else in this situation again. And when you do that, and when you reach that freedom stage, wow, it can be enjoyable. And I look forward to it every day. And yes, ego, super ego, conscious, unconscious, all that stuff that makes up the shadow says, oh man, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, oh well, we're doing it. So shadow work can be intense. The game is less enjoyable in God mode. Remember Doom? And they had God mode, and you could just cakewalk through it. That sucked. How much more is the enjoyment when you've reached the top of the mountain on your own as opposed to having the helicopter set you down there? That's why Tom Cruise climbs the mountains himself. true thrill of the victory is lost if you don't attain it on your own merit. If someone just hands you $1 million, it's gone. If you work for that $1 million, you're going to know every ounce of energy that went into that $1 million, and you're going to know where every ounce of energy goes when you spend that $1 million. And yes, shadow work can be daunting. Instead of working to understand, oh God, this is heavy, simply oversit and let it rise up. Because it will. Check out the book, The Presence Process by Michael Brown, and there's some videos either by or about him here on YouTube. That's an incredible thing. That's a very incredible thing, and I have included it in my shadow work integration method. I've included many different aspects of many different healing modalities in my shadow work integration method. Check out that video. I've used it. I use the process every day, and when I went in and used the video itself, I was like, okay, I'm doing this in my meditation every morning. I'm doing this specifically in my meditation every morning. It works. I'm proof of it. And I admit these things. Am I embarrassed about it? There's a part of me that says, you should be ashamed and embarrassed. I'm like, yeah, okay. So what happened when I was living in shame and embarrassment and guilt and shame and blame and hate and fear and anger and all that stuff? Sociopathy, rage can take all kinds of different forms. You realize rage can be a nice, smooth, even thing, but still be insidiously insightful. Insight with a C, not an S. Insight. Insight with a C, not an S. So, it's not all giggles and guffaws, but when you learn to laugh in the face of the shadow, and you continue anyway, it learns to laugh with you. Ha ha ha, that's a great joke. You're not good enough for this. Oh, what a great joke. Who are you to be out here in front of all these people telling them what to do? Look what you did. Ha ha ha, that's a great joke. They need somebody that's been through it with them. Maybe you haven't been through the same experience as I have. Maybe you have. That doesn't mean I don't have wisdom to impart. That doesn't mean we can't find a place of communication. So my suggestion on enjoying your shadow work is to leap laughing. That's my motto. Life is a dragon. It is going to eat you. Now, do you hide behind the rock saying, no, the dragon's going to be that dragon's going to eat me? Or do you stand up on top of the rock, pull your sword, and when that dragon comes to eat you, leap laughing into the maw of him and stab for the roof of that maw. So at least it remembers the meal. Or as Neil deGrasse Tyson's father would say, refuse to die until you scored some victory for humanity. And whether I've scored a victory for humanity or not, I've scored a victory for me. And that victory for me is a victory for one. And from the comments I've seen, and from the testimonials I have from clients, I know that we have scored victories. We can always score victories. We just have to be patient with ourselves and enjoy that 1% every day. Yes, shadow work can be enjoyable because every single day you chip at those chains, your heart gets freer. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you would like to know about. If you let me know what you would like to know about, then if I don't know about it, we can find it out together. Just as we're finding things out together here. I research these things before I put them out. So, watch this video, watch that video, and have a wonderful and blessed day. Thank you, and namaskar. Hawk from Help of Hawk Healing, where we're freeing human hearts. Be free.